When we think of a U.S. president, we picture solemn men in suits making weighty decisions. We see the official portraits, the polished speeches, and the history books. But behind the impenetrable walls of the White House and the glare of the public eye, many of America's leaders led lives filled with jaw-dropping secrets, bizarre hobbies, and physical feats that seemed too incredible to be true. Forget the policy debates. This is the hidden history of the Oval Office, where politics gave way to the utterly unbelievable. 1. The alligator in the bathtub. John Quincy Adams, 1767 to 1848. Imagine stepping into the White House residence in the 1820s and hearing a strange, rhythmic scratching sound emanating from the presidential bathroom. You wouldn't find a leaking faucet, you would find a future U.S. president sharing his bathing quarters with a predator. John Quincy Adams, the sixth president of the United States, was known for his icy intellect and reserved demeanor. But beneath that exterior was a man with an utterly eccentric fascination with the natural world, a fascination that led him to domesticate a reptile. The alligator was a gift from the famed Marquis de Lafayette, the French hero of the Revolutionary War who visited the United States in 1825. Adams, much to the horror of the White House staff and most guests, accepted the young reptile and decided its temporary home should be the East Room bathtub. For several months, the alligator became a strange, scaly pet. Adams would reportedly invite startled guests to inspect his domesticated creature, often to gauge their reaction. It was a bizarre, almost unbelievable eccentricity that highlights the drastic difference between the president's public image and his private life. Though the alligator eventually found a more suitable, less presidential home, the image of a sitting U.S. president sharing his porcelain tub with a lurking swamp creature remains one of the most delightfully shocking secrets of the early White House. 2. The near-fatal speech, Theodore Roosevelt, 1858 to 1919. Teddy Roosevelt was arguably the most physically robust and adventurous president in U.S. history, a man who boxed, wrestled, hiked, and led cavalry charges. But his unbelievable tenacity was put to the ultimate test during a campaign stop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on October 14, 1912. Roosevelt was running for president on the progressive Bull Moose ticket. As he was being driven to his speech venue, an assassin named John Flamang Schrank approached his car and fired a .38 caliber bullet at point-blank range. The bullet struck Roosevelt, but its force was slowed by two crucial items: a steel spectacle case in his breast pocket and, even more significantly, a folded 50-page copy of the speech he was about to deliver. Despite the impact, the former president did not collapse. He put his hand to his chest, saw the blood soaking his shirt, and immediately assessed the situation. He correctly deduced that since he was not coughing up blood, the bullet had not pierced his lung, meaning he could still speak. His aides desperately urged him to go directly to the hospital. Roosevelt refused. He instead demanded to be driven to the venue, where he addressed the stunned crowd for an incredible 90 minutes with a bullet lodged in his chest. Roosevelt famously opened his speech by saying, "Friends, I shall ask you to be as quiet as possible. I don't know whether you fully understand that I have just been shot, but it takes more than that to kill a bull moose." This astonishing act of courage and sheer will is a historical anomaly. Only after finishing his entire speech did Roosevelt finally allow himself to be taken for medical attention. He survived the ordeal, cementing his legacy not just as a political figure, but as an almost mythic, indestructible American personality. 3. The secret identity of General A.P.A. Vanderbilt, Ulysses S. Grant, 1822 to 1885. Ulysses S. Grant, the Civil War hero and 18th President of the United States, was a man of great strategic brilliance, but also possessed an enduring and sometimes problematic love for speed. Unfortunately, this passion frequently clashed with the speed limits and regulations of Washington, D.C. in the 1870s. Grant loved to drive his own carriage at breakneck speed through the Capitol streets, often earning him the stern attention of the D.C. police. The most famous incident occurred when a young patrolman named William West arrested the sitting president for speeding on a horse-drawn buggy, a major offense at the time. Grant, however, was already quite familiar with Officer West, as this was reportedly his second arrest for the same offense in 2 days. During the first arrest, Grant had promised the officer he wouldn't do it again. During the second, more serious arrest, Grant was forced to appear before the police court. But to avoid the unprecedented public scandal of a sitting president facing traffic charges, they agreed on a bizarre compromise. When Grant was inevitably questioned by the press or even his own cabinet about his fast-paced drives, he would often use the secret pseudonym General A.P.A. Vanderbilt, a completely made-up name to deflect inquiry and add a touch of aristocratic flair to his rebellious activities. This entire episode is a fascinating secret glimpse into the private life of a wartime general who simply could not slow down, even after becoming the most powerful man in the nation. He was the only sitting U.S. president ever arrested for a moving violation.
4. The Floating White House Disaster. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 1882 to 1945. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, or FDR, had a powerful and charismatic public persona, but his private life was defined by the paralysis caused by polio. To find refuge and escape the pressures of the Great Depression and World War II, FDR frequently retreated to his beloved floating White House, the presidential yacht USS Potomac. However, one of his attempts to relax and show off his expertise led to a secretive and nearly catastrophic incident. FDR was an avid sailor, but in 1943, he decided to demonstrate his navigational skill by steering the much larger, former Coast Guard cutter, the Electra, through a narrow channel in the choppy waters off the coast of New England. FDR, determined to handle the controls despite his disability, misjudged the turning radius and the current. The result was immediate and terrifying. The presidential yacht ran hard aground onto a sandbar. The vessel was stuck fast, listing dangerously, and the immediate fear was that the commander-in-chief was now a sitting target for any U-boat or enemy reconnaissance craft, especially since they were operating near sensitive military areas. The entire event was immediately classified and hushed up. The president had to be quickly transferred to another vessel while a high-pressure secret operation was launched to pull the Electra off the sandbar before the press, or worse, foreign intelligence, could discover the president's humiliating and dangerous blunder.